Hey guys, Tristan here, and for this video we have Raven's Level 9 upgrade. This time around I'm going to be installing the RPM front and rear A-arms in black. So I got the wide front A-arms, not the standard front A-arms. So what that means is going to widen the front of my suspension so that I can use rear tires in the front as well and not have to worry about constantly swapping them. And since I don't have any tires yet, it's a perfect time to get these now before I order my tires. So to install these, especially for this one, I need to get longer links. So I'm going to also be going ahead and putting in new links. For the camber links, they're both going to be using the same 3643, which is the same that you would find in the rear camber link on the stock VXL truck. And then I also have 2338, which is going to be the new toe links. So let's get ahead, open these up, and take a look inside. So this is all what you should have when you're going into this upgrade. So in the first package I have the wide A-arms, which come with instructions and requirements to put these on, stickers, and the packaging slip. For the rear A-arms, you're just going to get the stickers and as well as the packaging tape, and then we have all the camber links. The 2338 camber links are going to come disassembled. You are going to need to assemble them before you're going to use them, and I've already pre-assembled them, and as you can see, they look like just any other link. As for the two camber links, they're going to come with two installation instructions that you really don't need. I'm going to start by removing all four tires, and each tire is held on with a single 7mm nut. I'm going to be installing the front A-arms before I install the rear ones, and to make it easier I'm going to remove the front suspension from the RC. There's going to be 7 screws that we're going to be removing. There's going to be 2 up here, there's going to be 4 holding the skid plate in place, as well as I'm going to center the servo saver on the servo and remove the 1 screw that holds that in place. Before I remove the front A-arms, I'm going to go ahead and remove both links. There's going to be 2 screws that hold the camber links in place, as well as 2 that hold the toe links in place. Now that's all left to remove are the 3 screws that go into the A-arm. We have the kingpin right here that goes through the bulkhead, the screw that holds the bottom of the shock to the A-arm, as well as the kingpin that goes through the caster block. Here we have both the new and the old A-arms. As you guys can see, first off, it is much longer, probably about, I'd say, roughly an inch longer than the stock A-arms. What these do is, I've explained it earlier, but what they do is make the offset that you see for like the front and rear tires null, so you can use all 4 tires as front tires or all 4 tires as rear tires. It doesn't matter. That makes it a lot easier, especially if you're a racer and you need to quickly change out your tires or take something off to make a repair. You're not worried. You can save a little time by not having to make sure you have the right tires for the right front or rear. It definitely does help, and it overall makes it look good. I've noticed with tires, they make it with the offset, they just don't look right when you have both front and rear together. So overall, I really do like the looks what these give. But with these two, the comparison, you guys can tell, aside from them being longer, RPM doesn't have as much infill inside the overall structure. They've made this section a little more flat, making it a lot easier to get your shocks in there. Because I don't know about you guys, but it is a pain to get shocks through into here, getting the hollow balls in place, because they get caught on everything down there, and the fact that they made everything smooth in there makes it a hell of a lot easier. Other than that, they got rid of the center support that ran the length. This allows it to have a little more flexibility, which is what you want. You want it to absorb the impact, not break. So that's definitely a plus. And then it's just made out of the RPM nylons, which we all know and love. So with that said, guys, they really didn't beef it up too much in most areas. It actually looks a little thinner in the main structures, but areas around where the kingpins go and where the shocks go, they've beefed up that area a little bit. Other than that, I really don't see much else except for they've added more curvature instead of straight lines like Traxxas has. So I think it looks overall a lot better. And let's get them installed. We're going to put them on exactly the way we took the old ones off. Going to slide this end onto the bulkhead, run the kingpin through there, take our shock, slide it into place, and screw in the one screw that holds that into place. And then take our steering assembly here, slide it onto the end, and put in the one kingpin. Now that I have the new A-arms in place, I can now put on the new links. So for the camber links, they're fairly simple. All we're going to need to do is run a screw right through the hollow bolt into the shock tower. But for where it closes on to the caster block, I'm going to run a screw through the front just like I have the steering block. I'm going to put a nut on the end of it. As for the toe links, I'm just going to put one end on this screw right here, put a nut on the end, and then run another screw through the top of this, run it through the servo saver, and then put another nut on the other end. Now that we have the links and everything in place, we can now take the front suspension, slide it back onto the chassis, and screw down the 7 screws that hold on. There's 2 up here, then there's going to be 1 on the servo saver, as well as an additional 4. Now that we have the front suspension all set up, we're going to flip the RC on around and work on the rear suspension. And to start it off, I'm going to need to remove the 4 screws that hold the top body mount in place, because I'm going to need to remove the shock tower. Now that I have the front suspension all set up, I'm going to flip the RC on around and unscrew the 4 screws that hold the top body mounts in place. I'm going to need to remove the shock tower, so it's going to be fun. With the rear body mount removed, I can easily get to the 4 screws that hold the shock tower to the chassis. Now that the shock tower is up, I'm going to go ahead and remove these 2 shoulder screws that hold the camber links on. Now all we have to do is remove these 3 screws that go into the A-arms. There's going to be a kingpin that goes through the transmission, a screw that holds the bottom of the shock to the A-arm, as well as another kingpin that holds the axle carrier. So here is before and after. Now obviously the first thing that comes to mind when I look at these are not as beefed, it looks like, especially in areas like right here. That and these are a little more straight if you look at them, whereas these are not so much. They got more of the angled look that these do not possess. So that's really cool looking. Another thing I noticed is there's not as many mounting points on the fronts of the A-arms. As you guys can see, you don't have as much leeway when it comes to mounting your shocks. So that's going to be definitely fun to play with. Not to mention, they did beef up the area where you screw your shocks into, as well as where the the axle carrier and the transmission hook up to. So overall, they look pretty good. They adjusted where the mid supports are, mainly in the middle. As you can see, they pushed it back a little bit. And overall, I really do like the look. And, of course, it's RPM's plastic. We all know what RPM's plastic is good for. So, with that said, let's get these all back installed. So here we have the old versus the new. So the first thing I can see is the new ones don't look as straight. Like if you look at the stock ones, they got these straight, that go straight out to where the axle carriers are, and they look just nice and straight. Versus this where they don't have that. It's angled inwards. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because I can see these guarding the drive shafts a little bit, but these definitely give it a lot more room. So I'd guess that's be good for if you're going with big, thick drive shafts. Another thing I noticed is it does not have as many mounting holes for your shocks, which kind of limit you, but at the same time, I think it looks good, not having so many little holes in the front. They also went ahead and beefed up this area, as you guys can see. Definitely a lot more thicker compared to what it was before, so it's going to help hold them a lot better. I've never had a shock pop out of one of these, but you never know. They've also beefed up the areas in both ends for the axle carriers and for the transmission, so those look good as well. And they moved the center brace back a little bit. So overall, I think they look really good. Plus, it's RPM's plastic. We all know what they're good for. So, yeah. Let's get these new ones installed, though. To install the new A-arms, we're just going to slide them in to the bottom of the transmission case. Slide the kingpin right on through. We're going to take our axle carrier, making sure our drive shafts are connected, and sliding the axle carriers into the other end and screwing down the one kingpin that holds that into place. Then finally taking our shock, swinging it down, and screwing it into one of these 3 holes. Now that I have the new A-arms in place, I'm going to take our new camber links, lay them right on over the top hole of the bottom of the shock tower, and screw down the one screw that holds both of them in place. Now I can go ahead and screw down the 4 screws that hold the shock tower to the chassis. Now I can go ahead and remove this one shoulder screw that holds the camber link to the axle carrier. Then I'm going to take a screw and thread it all the way through. And then take our new camber link, which should be just right here. Slide it on to the screw itself through the hollow ball, and then put a nut on the other end. I can also go ahead and remove this one shoulder screw that holds the other end of the camber link into place. Once that's off, I can take our new camber link, which should be right here, connected to the shock tower. I'm going to thread a screw through this side of the axle carrier, slide this onto that, and then put a nut on the end. With everything in place, I can now take our body mounts, slide them right on over the back of the shock tower, and screw down the 4 screws that hold it on. Now all I have to do is to take our tires, slide them on, and screw down the 7mm nut that holds them on. Here is before, and here is after, guys. Check it out. I gotta say, it is looking good. Now, if you guys are following this video to do it yourself on your own Stampede, be sure that you adjust your links because they will not be exact. You're going to want to use whatever you use, whether it be a square. I have a camber gauge from RPM. If you guys have anything that you guys can use to help you adjust these links properly, it will be a lifesaver. Or else you're going to be doing this for hours trying to get them all exact. So, yes, you're going to want to make sure that you adjust these links so that they are at the right. So, other than that, guys, yes, this was a very, very fun, long upgrade. I didn't have the time to do it all in one day, obviously. And, yeah, but it's definitely going to be easy when it comes to putting, like, the tires, not having to worry about which one's front or rear. Definitely does help in the look category. I have no clue why I just stuttered there. Definitely helps in the look category, plus their RPM, so I know they're going to be able to withstand the bashing I'm going to put them through and everything else. So, with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed Raven's Level 9 upgrade, and I will see you next time.